What if everything you know about control is sabotaging your success? Here's something that's going to mess with your head. The most successful people on the planet aren't trying to control everything. They've figured out something that took scientists decades to prove. And once you understand it, you'll never see success the same way again. Back in the early 60s, a scientist named Edward Lorenz was running weather simulations on his computer. He entered the same data twice, but with one tiny difference in the decimal points. The result? Completely different weather patterns. This discovery shook the scientific community and gave birth to what we now call chaos theory. And buried inside this theory is a principle that explains why some people build empires while others stay stuck. Here's the deal. You've been taught that success comes from perfect planning, from controlling every variable, from eliminating uncertainty. But that's exactly what's holding you back. Because the real world doesn't work like a spreadsheet. It's messy, unpredictable, and constantly changing. And the people who thrive aren't the ones with the best plans. They're the ones who've learned to move with the chaos instead of against it. Think about the entrepreneurs who built billion-dollar companies. They didn't wait for perfect conditions. They launched when everyone said it was too risky. They pivoted when their original plan failed. They saw opportunities in the disorder, while everyone else was paralyzed by fear. That's not luck. That's a completely different operating system. Chaos theory teaches us that complex systems are incredibly sensitive to initial conditions. A small action today can create massive results tomorrow. But here's what most people miss. It works both ways. Your small decisions right now are either building momentum toward your goals or slowly destroying your future, and you don't even realize it's happening. The biggest revelation? You don't need to control everything. You need to control the right things. Your daily habits, your response to setbacks, your ability to spot patterns others miss, your willingness to take calculated risks when everyone else is playing it safe. That's where real power lives. Most people waste their entire lives trying to eliminate uncertainty. Meanwhile, high performers have learned to weaponize it. They understand that chaos creates gaps in the market, opportunities for growth, moments where bold action generates exponential returns. They've stopped asking, "What if it goes wrong?" and started asking, "What if this is exactly the opportunity I've been waiting for?" So here's my question for you. Are you still trying to control the uncontrollable? Or are you ready to learn how to thrive in uncertainty? Drop chaos in the comments if this resonates and smash that like button. Let's dive deeper into this together. How technology giants use chaos principles to stay ahead of competition. Let me show you something wild. The biggest tech companies aren't succeeding because they have the best technology. They're winning because they've mastered something far more valuable. The ability to function at peak performance in environments of extreme uncertainty. Look at the companies dominating artificial intelligence right now. They're not trying to predict exactly where the technology will be in 5 years. That's impossible. Instead, they're building systems that can adapt faster than anyone else. They're running hundreds of experiments simultaneously, knowing that most will fail. But they also know that one breakthrough can change everything. This is chaos theory in action. In complex systems, you can't predict specific outcomes, but you can influence the conditions that make certain outcomes more likely. And that's exactly what separates leaders from followers in every industry. Here's what happens in practice. While traditional companies are stuck in analysis paralysis, trying to make the perfect decision, these high performers are testing, learning, and iterating at lightning speed. They've embraced what scientists call sensitive dependence on initial conditions. They know that small advantages compound over time. A slightly better algorithm today becomes market dominance tomorrow. But there's something deeper happening here. The best leaders have developed an almost supernatural ability to read patterns in the noise. They can sense when a market is about to shift. They can feel when consumer behavior is changing. They can identify emerging trends before the data even shows up. How? Because they've trained themselves to see the hidden order within apparent chaos. Think about the rise of social media, streaming services, or cloud computing. In every case, there were early signals that most people ignore. The market looked chaotic, unpredictable, risky. But a few visionaries saw the patterns. They recognized the attractors, the underlying forces pulling the system in a certain direction. And they bet big when everyone else was playing small. This isn't about being reckless. It's about developing a completely different relationship with uncertainty. It's about building mental models that can handle complexity without breaking down. It's about training your decision-making system to function under pressure, when information is incomplete and time is running out. The businesses that thrive in chaos share one thing. They've stopped trying to eliminate risk and started learning how to manage it intelligently. They diversify their bets. They build redundancy into their systems. They create cultures where failure is danger, not disaster. And most importantly, they move fast enough to capitalize on opportunities before they disappear. Comment pattern if you're starting to see how this applies to your life, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Why? Your biggest breakthrough will come from embracing uncertainty? Alright, here's where it gets personal. Everything we've talked about sounds great in theory. But how do you actually use this in your own life? How do you take chaos theory and turn it into real results? First, you need to understand something critical. Uncertainty isn't your enemy. It's your opportunity. Every major breakthrough in history happened because someone was willing to move forward without knowing exactly how things would turn out. They didn't have all the answers. They just had enough courage to take the next step. Chaos theory shows us that in complex systems, small inputs can create disproportionate outputs. The butterfly effect isn't just a cool metaphor. It's a practical framework for understanding leverage. And here's the beautiful part. You have access to more leverage than you realize. Every morning when you wake up, you're making choices that will echo years into your future. The book you read, the conversation you have, the skill you practice, the relationship you invest in. These seem like small things. But in a chaotic system, small things compound. They interact with other variables in ways you can't predict. And suddenly, 6 months from now, your entire life looks different. But most people never tap into this power because they're paralyzed by the need for certainty. They want guarantees before they start. They want to know exactly how the story ends before they write the first page. And while they're waiting for the perfect moment, life is passing them by. High performers think differently. They understand that clarity comes from action, not from thinking. They commit to a direction and then adjust based on feedback. They make decisions with incomplete information because they know that waiting for perfect information means never moving at all. And in a rapidly changing world, standing still is moving backward. Here's a framework you can use starting today. Identify the areas of your life where you're avoiding action because of uncertainty. Career change, starting a business, investing, relationship decisions, whatever it is. Now ask yourself, what's the smallest step I could take that would give me more information? Not the perfect step, just the next step. Because here's what chaos theory teaches us. You don't need to see the whole staircase. You just need to take the first step, and then the next, and then the next. The path reveals itself as you walk it. If this is clicking for you, hit that like button and comment breakthrough. You're closer than you think. How to build a mind that thrives when everything around you is falling apart. Now, we're getting to the core of everything, because all the strategy in the world means nothing if your mind collapses under pressure. And that's exactly what happens to most people when chaos hits. Their carefully constructed plans fall apart, and they freeze. But there's another type of person, someone who stays calm when markets crash, who sees opportunity when everyone else sees disaster, who gets sharper as the pressure increases. And the difference between these two types isn't talent or intelligence, it's mental architecture. Chaos theory gives us the blueprint for building this kind of mind. It starts with understanding that you can't eliminate volatility from your environment, but you can build internal stability that's independent of external conditions. You can develop what researchers call psychological flexibility, the ability to maintain your values and direction even when circumstances change dramatically. Here's how the best do it. They train themselves to zoom out. When you're caught in the middle of chaos, everything feels urgent and overwhelming. But when you pull back and look at the bigger patterns, you start to see that most of what feels like chaos is actually just noise. The signal is still there. You just need to learn how to filter out everything else. They also build what I call decision endurance. Most people can make 1 or 2 good decisions under pressure, but high performers can make dozens of critical decisions in a row without their judgment degrading. How? They've practiced. They've deliberately put themselves in high-pressure situations and trained their minds to function in that state. And here's the secret nobody talks about. They've made peace with uncertainty. They're not constantly fighting reality or wishing things were different. They've accepted that the world is complex, unpredictable, and often unfair. And that acceptance frees up massive amounts of mental energy that other people waste on resistance. But acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It means you're operating from a place of power instead of fear. You're not reacting to chaos. You're responding to it intelligently. You're using it as fuel for growth instead of letting it drain your energy. The ultimate application of chaos theory to your life is this: become the person who functions at their highest level precisely when everyone else is falling apart. Build systems that get stronger under stress. Develop skills that become more valuable as uncertainty increases. Create a mindset that sees possibility where others see only problems. Comment unstoppable if you're committed to building this kind of mind, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Let's build a community of people who thrive in chaos.